In ancient Egypt, especially in the literature that has come down to us, and let us be clear about this does not represent the entirety of Egyptian culture. We are very much looking through the eyes of others who then look through the eyes of others. And these different layers overlay their own interpretations, much as we all do when we look at any experience external to our own personal, immediate lived experience. But we can be pretty sure that the central feature of ancient Egyptian culture was ma'at. This was seen as harmony and balance, which helped maintain order in the universe, but also order within the lives of people. Keeping balance in one's own family and by expression then one's own communities, we live a sacralized life. In ancient Egyptian culture, a vital aspect of this was the use of gratitude, which could elevate our hearts and make us walk lighter in the world. Indeed, it could make our hearts lighter than a feather, so that when we faced judgment in the afterlife, our hearts would not speak against us, but through generosity and joy would speak for us. Indeed, ingratitude was seen as a gateway to negativity, but that through prayer, festivals, and personal religious or spiritual observances, we could maintain a light heart, enjoy a full life, and after bodily death be assured that we would be judged fairly and not lose our hope of going to a better world after this one. One of the forms of personal observance, especially amongst the poor, is said to have been the ritual of the 5 Gifts of Hathor, or Hathor, which encouraged gratitude on a daily basis. We saw the need to be thankful no matter what losses we may have endured. And this practice of joy is a feature of Hathor worship. Hathor was a multifaceted god. She appealed to a variety of needs and in many ways provided many of the better aspects of life. Central to these aspects was the practice of joy, which was seen as a form of beauty. This joy brightened the heart of the believer and enabled you to live a full and meaningful life. There is a prayer to Hathor or Hathor from the stela of Ipui, which is from the 18th dynasty, about 1500 BCE, which emphasizes this point. And in part it reads, "Giving praise to Hathor who lives in Thebes, kiss the earth for reverence to her in all forms. It was on the day that I saw her beauty. My mind was spending the day in celebration thereof, that I beheld the Lady of the 2 Lands in a dream, and she placed joy in my heart. Then I was revitalized with her food. He who is wise will honor her at the seasonal festival. That which gives teaching to the people might be regarded as pure food. Need a servant in the place of truth. Ipui the Justifier says, in order to solve the problem of rivalry, jealousy, and coveting her, the wonders of Hathor which she did in ancient times should be related to the ones who do not know and the ones who do know. A generation should tell the next generation how beautiful she truly is. By keeping our mind and heart centered on this beautiful goddess and her inner and outer beauty, we receive the instruction of pure food, which can sustain our soul, and this pure food is gratitude and joy. And these neutralize the power of negative thoughts and feelings such as jealousy, envy, and bitterness. And that it is by living joyfully that we are able to transform our negativity into positivity. As the scholar Rosalie David commented, it was accepted that life was pursued within the context of a dangerous cosmos, and that this orderly pattern established by the Neteru, by the gods, was frequently disturbed by disasters, and these included illness, sudden death, or premature death, the natural dangers, personal faith. Personal relationship with the divine was needed to respond to life's tragedies, but affliction was not regarded as an overwhelmingly bad experience because the sufferer could gain strength and spiritual sustenance from your loss. Hathor was a deity most favorably disposed to alleviate our suffering, to provide comfort and restore balance, because she had once been the cause of misery in an earlier incarnation, that of the bloodthirsty goddess Sekhmet. One of her many roles was as a goddess of war. And if you wish to know more about that story, I recommend that you read the Book of the Heavenly Cow. And in fact, Hathor performs the acts of joy as in her own way an act of penance for the slaughter that she committed in the form of the goddess Sekhmet. And in many ways, this is a way of teaching us how we can transform the negative things many of us have done in our past and sometimes burn away at our consciousness. Rather than focusing on guilt and sin, by spreading joy to others, by expressing gratitude for the gifts of life, by seeking wisdom, and by seeking enlightenment through spiritual practices, and by ensuring that joy is not just something we hold for ourselves, but instead give to others. These are the 5 practices of generosity of Hathor. I truly recommend reading some of the stories of Hathor, but also some of the newer research into this ancient deity, but not just as a way of connecting to some pastiche, some papier-mâché being, but to connect to the awesome wisdom of this deity, which is the reason she was worshipped for so long, from pre-dynastic times up until the end of the classical period, and increasingly in our day and age. Hathor is a deity that transcends social class. And she gave what scholar Alison Roberts notes as her role as the energizing unifying agent of change, the vanquisher of inertia and other threats. Her worship, primarily through joy and the embracing of beauty, counters the forces of inertia and negativity, the pit of depression, the well of depression, which in many of us represents a reality we experience, if not all the time, then at least now and again. And certainly people in the ancient world suffered from this. But by embracing the act of beauty, the act of worship, then we can embrace the gifts of this goddess. In an ancient story, we are told of the 5 gifts of Hathor. When a poor farmer joined in the worship of Hathor, the priest or priestess would take hold of their left forearm and say, "Name the 5 things you would miss the most if you were to die right now." And the person would have to name the first 5 things which came to mind without thinking precisely of them. Sometimes these would be my wife, my children, beer, my dog, the river. The priest or priestess, or perhaps the wise woman, would then raise the person's left hand in front of their face and say, "These are the 5 gifts of Hathor." And the person would look at the 5 gifts, the 5 fingers of their left hand. And the ritual would continue. Every day you have at least these 5 things to be grateful for. And should you lose one, there will always come another. When that person went back out into the fields and reached out for the stalk of wheat to cut under the hot sun, they'd see their left hand always before them and be reminded of these 5 gifts of Hathor. How do we practice this? Well, by embracing the gift of gratitude, we must, without artifice, that means finding a way to express these without thinking too much. What are the 5 things we would miss if we were to die right now? And in many ways we need to revisit this now and again, because that of course changes. But once we have done this, then when we think that we have nothing, we can hold our hands in front of our faces and name the 5 things that we have identified and go, "These are the 5 gifts of Hathor, the 5 gifts of the Divine Mother. And I must rejoice for these 5 gifts, for with them I am rich." And so we then learn to treasure this gift of life. As we are in this southern hemisphere in the season of winter, this can be a very powerful practice. May the goddess reveal to you what the 5 gifts are in your life, and may you, in finding them, find reason to rejoice and to dispel the darkness of the season, so that light dwells within our heart. Joy is given birth, and we can celebrate our relationship with the divine powers that surround us and dwell within us, and realize that we are not poor, but that we are in fact rich beyond measure, and be grateful. And in this, I am grateful to the goddess Hathor for this gift of wisdom, this gift of joy, and indeed the gift of gratitude itself. I am Dr. Shimon de Valencia, and this is the Merry Mystic.